Hi, welcome to another episode of First Chapter Friday. My name is Lucy, and the book that I am going to be reading the first chapter of today is called Obie is Man Enough. This is by Schuyler, Bailar. And this is the story of Obie, who is a transgender tween. Obie is starting over at the beginning of this book after an abusive and discriminatory swim coach kicks him off of his swim team for being transgender. So Obie is faced with finding a new swim team and new friends, really, because a lot of his friends were on that swim team and some of his friends are struggling with his transition. Obie is filled with self-doubt because of the treatment by his old coach, by some bullying that he experiences. His self-doubt is never about transitioning, but it's about being fast enough to compete with boys in the water. And he wants to show his coach and his critics, and he wants to show himself that he can do that. So the book is narrated from the first person point of view. We get a really vulnerable voice from Obie. He's writing in his diary throughout this book. We see his sort of internal conflict, that he struggles with how much he should stand up for himself. Obie is also trying to connect with his Korean heritage through a relationship with his Korean grandmother. She's teaching him to cook, to make kimchi, and he begins to meet new people his age. There's one person especially who he connects with. And this book starts post-transition. This is not a story about Obie transitioning. This is a story of Obie as a whole person, not just a trans person. Obie is a swimmer. He is a teacher's pet. He loves pickles. He loves sandwiches. So the author does a great job of showing Obie in his entirety. The author, Schuyler Bailar, was the first openly transgender collegiate swimmer in U.S. history. He went to Harvard University. He competed on their Division I men's swim team. Schuyler is well known for facing a difficult choice of transitioning while maybe giving up the prospect of being a champion swimmer as a female. And he has a real inside look to what it is like to be an athlete who has transitioned and is finding themselves in a position to be in a new team. The book also includes a list of resources at the end and a really nice author's note. The author writes a note to cisgender readers, and then he writes a separate note to transgender readers. The beginning of the book starts before chapter 1 with a prologue that takes place a little bit before the events in the story. That is what I'm going to read today because it is really the first chapter of the book. There's also an author's note at the beginning of the book that I would like to share with you. Obie is a transgender boy who experiences transphobia throughout the story. If you are not transgender, please recognize that this transphobia does not represent all hatred and discrimination we experience. Still, it is an accurate representation that some experience. Certain moments in this book may be difficult to read for those who have experienced similar discrimination. Please take care of yourself as you read, especially if you are also transgender. The prologue is called Before. You are never going to be a real man, Sarah, Coach Bolton says, using my old name. He's never really made the effort to use my new one, Obie. I cringe. It hurts every time. It says, I do not see you. Making you feel comfortable does not matter to me. His tone intensifies as he continues. I do not know why you're kidding yourself. How are you going to compete against the boys? Are you insane? He doesn't wait for me to reply. I don't think he cares what I have to say. Unless you can beat every boy on this team, I don't support this at all. I won't watch you throw away everything we've worked for. This isn't about being fast, I try to interject, but I'm barely audible, and Coach just plows on. If you're going to, he falters, his face contorting, do this, pretend to be a boy or whatever. I won't coach you anymore. He rises from his chair as he talks, or growls rather. Grab your snorkel and fins from the bin and leave before we start practice. I'll call your mother. I sit there glued to my seat. I hadn't even been able to respond. Coach just walked out of the office, seemingly taking my voice with him. I'd known telling him would be hard, but I hadn't thought it would go this poorly. The backs of my naked thighs stick to the sofa, and I wonder why someone thought a leather couch in a swim coach's office was a good idea. Kids sit on it in their wet swimsuits all the time. Today was supposed to be my last day in this suit, the one piece that girls wear. What will happen now that Coach just kicked me off the team? When I see Mom's car pull up in front of the pool, I feel hot tears stinging my eyes. I pray she doesn't get out to hug me. I really don't want to bawl right here. I feel the hot anger bubbling in my chest. Coach didn't even give me a freaking chance. Thankfully, Mom doesn't ask what happened. She must have gotten enough about it from Coach's phone call. She offers me the radio or an audiobook, and I choose audiobook, hoping to be swept into a story and out of my life. But the tears come anyway. All of my friends are in that pool. If I don't go back to practice tomorrow, when will I see them? Some of them go to school with me, I guess, but it's not the same. There's something unique about spending 20 hours a week training like we do. In a way, we're alone, each in our own underwater bubbles, but we are alone together. I watch the Bolton's Barracuda Aquatics sign fade into the distance and trace the BBA logo on my backpack with my finger. We've done this drive thousands of times since I joined the team 5 years ago, but now it's different. I'm not just going home after practice. I'm leaving here forever. I sniffle, and Coach's gruff voice invades my thoughts. You're never going to be a real man, Sarah, which somehow both stops and starts the tears at the same time. Does crying make me less of a real man? My throat burns with the sobs. Obie, do you want to talk about what happened? Mom's nervously looking back and forth between my face and the road. The traffic is terrible, despite the fact that it's still early afternoon. Coach said I'd never be a real man, I choke out, unless I can beat every other guy on the team. That's ridiculous, Mom says, her eyes narrowing. That's absolutely ridiculous. Where am I going to go? I don't have another swim team, and Bolton coaches at school, too. I don't know, sweetie, but we're going to figure this out. But all my friends are kudas. I am now, as my best friend Lucy would say, full on ugly crying. When we get home, I kick my shoes off more violently than I mean to. They make 2 loud thuds as they smack into the wall, and the mud that had been stuck to the bottom scatter across the floor. Honey, Mom starts but doesn't continue. I run through the kitchen, and I'm halfway up the stairs when Dad calls after me. Obadiah, my dad tries louder this time, but Mom cuts him off. Let him be, I hear her say before I slam my door shut. I drop my backpack on the floor and stare at the photo above my bed. Lucy, Clyde, Coach Bolton, Dad, me. My chest feels like it's about to collapse into itself, and I think I might vomit. I've thought about taking that photo down for months. It's been almost a year since I told Clyde, and he started acting like he does, like I'm everything he can't stand. But I kept hoping maybe it would turn out differently. Maybe he'd come around. But I can't wait any longer. I rip the photo down. It tears at the corners where it had been taped, leaving 4 small triangles stuck to the wall. Clyde's foot gets trapped. I look at my face, my short hair, my XL tie-dyed sweatshirt from Spring Champs in 2017. As I'm ripping up the paper, it gets easier and easier to tear, and I realize that's just because my tears are soaking it. I continue to rip little pieces off until just my own face remains. I stand, holding it. There's a knock on my door. I don't turn around or say anything, but after a moment, it opens slightly anyway. I don't want to talk, I almost scream, still facing the other way. Oh, I hear Jessling say. Oh, I turn around, wiping my face. What do you want? I ask, but there's no question mark. Mom told me what happened, he starts, but I cut him off. I don't want to talk about it, I say again. My voice climbs too high. I know. I wanted to say, he hesitates. I think that your coach is trash. He looks me directly in the eyes and he continues. Even if he's a good coach, with swim shit, a good coach becomes a bad coach when they're an asshole. I stare at him, not knowing how I'm supposed to respond. Jessling's never been the serious type. He's the kind of guy who can make a joke out of anything. That's it. Just know I got you, Oh. I'm here. And then he's gone. A good coach becomes a bad coach when they're an asshole, I repeat in my head. But he is the best coach. Does that make a difference? What if this means I'll never go to nationals like he said I would? I glance at the medals hanging over my dresser, the trophies from the summer swim team, some awards from end-of-the-year banquets. I take a few steps toward my bed and feel pieces of the torn-up photo stick to my bare feet. I kneel and collect them by the fistful and begin dumping them in my trash can. A few pieces linger on the carpet, mostly parts of Lucy. In one fragment, you can still see her big smile. I think we were 10. We'd just finished our first spring champs. It was the first 4-day championship meet either of us had ever competed in, and we'd each won at least 2 of our events. That was the meet I'd realized I am a swimmer. In the locker room after the last warm down, Lucy and I had been changing out of our suits when Lucy turned to me and said, "This was the best meet ever." I'd grinned, nodding. It was. I want it to be like this forever. Me, you, and Clyde, of course. Yeah, me too. Best friends. From the pool to school, we rule, we'd shouted in unison. One of the girls had turned to stare at us, and there had been a moment of awkward silence. Lucy and I had looked at each other, then burst into laughing. The girls had given us a very condescending look as we walked away. "Are we getting too old to do that?" I had asked Lucy. She waved her hand in the air. "Whatever, who cares?" I lie on the floor and stare at the ceiling. A little while later, there's another knock on my door. This one waits for my answer. "What?" I finally say quietly. "Can I come in?" Mom's voice is gentle. "I guess," I say, and sit on the floor with my back against my bed. "How are you holding up?" Mom asks as she sits next to me. I look at her, my eyes burning from all the tears. They feel dried out, but that doesn't make any sense. Tears are liquid. "I know you probably are just processing right now," she says, "but I wanted to let you know that Dad's already started looking for other swim programs for you so that you'll miss as little practice as possible. I know you're worried about that." Other programs? It feels so strange that I won't be returning to Coach Bolton tomorrow morning. What if all the other coaches are like Coach Bolton? What if they hate me for being this way? I promise we're going to figure this out. If we have to hire a freaking lawyer, we will, she continues. "A lawyer? Of course, we will do whatever it takes." "Why a lawyer? Lawyers are for murder and other crimes, not mean coaches." "Discriminatory behavior. Coach Bolton kicked you off because of who you are. That's not allowed," she explains. "Okay," I say. I'm still holding a fistful of ripped up photo bits. "What is that?" Mom says, staring at my hand. "What happened?" She looks really concerned. I just glance up at where the photo used to be. What if I lose all my friends too? I ignore her question. I'm looking at the piece that holds Lucy's smile. Crap, I forgot to text her. "I doubt that will happen, honey. It just might be a bit harder to see everyone as often. It's going to be okay." I nod. I don't believe her, but I'm too tired to argue. "Do you want to come down for some dinner, or shall I bring it up to you?" She must know today is a really bad day if she's not only allowing, but offering me the choice to eat in my room. "Up here, please?" I ask tentatively. "Okay, I'll be back in an hour or so. Dad's still cooking." "Thanks, Mom." She gives me a big hug before getting up and shutting the door softly behind her. I call Lucy, but get her voicemail almost immediately. When I hear myself giggle in the background, we set up our voicemail together, which mostly consisted of us rolling on the floor laughing because Clyde had tried doing several impressions of famous actors. I hang up. Gosh, that feels like forever ago. Lucy's probably having dinner. Her mom is pretty strict about tech at the table. At her house, we don't just put our phones away, we have to turn them all the way off and stack them on top of each other in the middle of the table. If your phone rings because you didn't actually turn it off, you don't get dessert. And Mrs. Weaver makes the best apple pie, so you do not want to miss that. I hear Bolton's voice in my head again. "You're never going to be a real man, Sarah." My old name is like a sucker punch to the gut. I think a lot of people don't understand how painful it is to be called a name that doesn't fit. Some people even think it's okay to call me Sarah when they're talking about me in the past. But it's not okay. It's just as painful. I only ever want to be called Obie. I drop the last bit of the photo into the trash can and slip under the covers. Normally, I'd care that I'm wearing outside clothes in my nice clean bed, but today everything already feels dirty. I lie on my stomach, my face turned sideways so I can breathe. Suddenly, I'm 9 all over again. My hair is long and matted against my forehead. I'm sweating and crying. I don't want to wake Mom and Dad, so I muffle my face in the pillow. And then the darkness is no longer just in my room. It's in my head, too. I wonder what it would be like if I just stayed like that, pressed into the pillow, unable to breathe. What if I didn't turn my head for air? What if I didn't have to wake up every morning and be someone I'm not? What if... My phone buzzes me back to the present. Lucy, 5:45 p.m. Sorry, wasn't in. You know Mama W. I'm guessing it didn't go very well. Lucy, 5:46 p.m. We all saw you leave. Are you okay? Horrible? The worst day of my life? I kind of want to curl up and die, but I don't type anything. Part of me wishes she were here and we could talk it through, but the rest of me just wants silence. So I stay burritoed in bed because even though Bolton wouldn't let me practice today, I'm still so tired. I switch my phone to Do Not Disturb and pull the covers over my face. What did Coach Bolton tell everyone? Did he say he was kicking me off the team because he doesn't believe I'm really a guy? That he doesn't want me competing as who I really am? Or did he make something else up? People who believe I'm man enough. 1, Mom and Dad. 2, Jessing. 3, Lucy. People who don't. 1, Coach Bolton. And that is the end of the prologue, which is called Before. And that takes place some months before the rest of the book continues. Schuyler, Bailar presents us with a really well-rounded character in Obie. There are also some other great characters in the book. There's a teacher who's very supportive of Obie. There's a man who owns a sandwich shop. It's Obie and his father's favorite sandwich shop to go to. There is a lot of talk about food. Obie loves food. He loves Korean food. He loves sandwiches, as I said before. He loves spicy food. He loves pickles. If you're interested in reading books about sports, this is a great book for you because Schuyler Bailar, the author, is himself a swimmer. The details about swimming are really spot on. And so it's a great sports story as well. So that is Obie is Man Enough by Schuyler Bailar. Thanks for joining me.